Good morning, everyone. An FDA advisory panel is meeting to discuss whether to approve a first-of-its-kind vaccine to protect infants against RSV. The shot would be given to pregnant women. Stephanie Stahl has more.
Pfizer's experimental RSV vaccine would be given in late pregnancy so mothers can pass antibodies onto their babies to protect against the virus. Pfizer says its research of nearly 7,400 vaccinated mothers finds the shot is 82% effective at preventing severe RSV in infants in the first 3 months of life. That number is 69% at 6 months.
RSV pre-F maternal immunization demonstrated a satisfactory safety profile in mothers and their infants.
Reviewers with the FDA say the vaccine appears to be safe, but there are some questions about a slight difference in premature birth in the two study groups.
The difference of 1% was noted in premature births, similar to the difference seen in preterm deliveries, though not statistically significant. These findings may be of consideration for further safety evaluation through post-marketing studies.
RSV, which stands for respiratory syncytial virus, can be dangerous, even deadly for some infants and young children. The CDC estimates about 58,000 to 80,000 children under 5 are hospitalized due to RSV. Premature babies and infants under 6 months old are at highest risk for severe RSV illness.
There's nothing more distressing for parents than the frightened look of their 3-month-old infant struggling to breathe.
The U.S. experienced an unprecedented early and severe surge in RSV cases last fall, putting a significant strain on hospitals. Pfizer predicts up to 16,000 infant hospitalizations could be prevented each year if pregnant women are vaccinated for RSV. Stephanie Stahl, CBS News.
Earlier this month, GlaxoSmithKline's Arexvy became the first RSV vaccine approved for use in the U.S. for people aged 60 and older. Well, recently some patients marked World Inflammatory Bowel Disease Day. It's a day set aside to educate families about the condition. 4 women suffering from the disease took a simple DNA test, then found out they had a much deeper connection. Michael George sat down with them.
When these 4 then complete strangers took at-home DNA tests, they never expected to find a new family.
I always wanted a sister, and then to find out I have multiple sisters is just wild.
Anna, Nicole, Katie, and Kristen learned they were all half-sisters from the same sperm donor. They became friends fast, and later learned they shared something else in common.
I remember messaging, does anyone else have IBD? Because this is something I deal with.
All 4 suffer from an inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis. It's made life difficult for all of them.
Going out to eat is just unbearable, and then always having to know where a restroom is. And it's very personal and embarrassing to explain to people.
But now they weren't suffering alone. They shared medical advice and support.
What was it like to find out that you're not alone?
It was amazing and such a blessing. Having support and sisters you can talk to is just everything.
Dr. Feza Remzi, director of the Inflammatory Bowel Disease Center at NYU Langone, treats 3 of the sisters. He performed a J-pouch procedure on 2 of them, which involves removing the colon and rectum.
The patient's quality of life dramatically improved compared to before. It's a big deal when they don't have any need of urgency or incontinence.
Now these 4 continue the fight together.
The amount of love that we have for one another is unreal.
More than sisters, they're also each other's support group. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Now, genetics definitely play a role in inflammatory bowel disease, but studies show close to 80% of patients don't have a close relative with the disease. Well, this is a stunning fact of life in America. More than 9 million children will go to bed hungry tonight. This in a country where up to 40% of our food is thrown out every single day. But there are some smart solutions. Adriana Diaz reports from Detroit. One group is hunting for food about to be tossed out.
At Detroit's sharing table, food is put out for anyone in need.
You can see who's hungry. You can see it in their eyes.
Bonnie Askew is a regular.
Times are hard. People don't have a decent meal, so even if you can't get a full meal, you can supplement.
Some of this comes from Chad Techner with Metro Food Rescue, who drives around town salvaging food about to be thrown out.
But my favorite thing to do is to empty the truck.
And delivering it to some of the 33 million Americans lacking stable food at home.
It's unconscionable to me that we waste 40% of the food in this country, while 1 in 4 kids don't have enough food to eat. I have 4 young kids. It's a statistic that really hits home.
Love those Thomas bagels.
Techner's team filled the truck at Bimbo Bakeries with food just past the best by date.
If we wouldn't get it to a food bank, we would have to throw it out, so it would completely go to waste.
There's more than enough for everyone to eat. We just don't get it to the right place at the right time. I mean, all of this bread and stuff on this truck is still beautiful and great.
It smells good. I can smell it. You smell it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Technology is also helping reduce waste, linking hungry consumers with affordable meals.
I feel like everyone's winning, you know?
Apps like Too Good To Go let customers buy bags of items from restaurants and stores before they're thrown out at a deep discount.
There's a bit of randomness to it, but again, you know, when you're paying $3, $4, $5 a pickup, it's always, you know, net ROI.
A good return on investment, especially with the high cost of groceries.
What do you want Americans to know when they're going through their fridge and maybe thinking about throwing something out?
If you don't see it, the hunger, go look for it. It's out there. Donate your leftovers, find a pantry and donate.
It makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference.
Adriana Diaz, CBS News.
Coming up a little later on Mid-Morning, the best of Texas barbecue in the city. We'll show you how just ahead. All right, we're back. Recently, the Federal Communications Commission shut down a company behind millions of illegal robocalls. Christine Lazar talked to the head of the agency, who says more action is on the way.
They are the calls no one wants to get.
These calls are so annoying, and it's the #1 consumer complaint at the Federal Communications Commission.
Jessica Rosenworcel is the FCC chairwoman, and on Thursday, the commission adopted a measure that should weed out more robocalls.
To catch those behind these scams.
But she admits it's only one more weapon in an ongoing battle.
Does it feel like a game of whack-a-mole where you get rid of one scam and another pops up in its place?
Absolutely. All I want is a bigger hammer in this game.
The hammer could soon come down on call providers that don't meet the June deadline to implement new call authentication technology. Most phone providers have already adopted the tech called Stir Shaken, which validates a real call and stops fake numbers. But Alex Quilici, CEO of the robocall blocking app Umail, says criminals found a workaround.
Well, the bad guys went and got a bunch of real numbers. So the scammers have just kept going.
According to Umail, Americans received 4.5 billion robocalls in April. Rosenworcel says Congress needs to join this effort.
Do you think that you can get bipartisan support for laws that really come down hard on robocalls?
You know, in a day when a lot divides us, I think hatred of robocalls is one of those things that could unite us.
The chairwoman says updating laws created more than 30 years ago could help stop spam calls for good. Christine Lazar, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Renewable energy surged ahead of coal-fired energy for the first time in the United States last year, but there's a troubling byproduct in the push toward a greener economy. Here's CBS's Ben Tracy with more on that.
The blades on massive wind turbines can be as long as a football field and strong as a linebacker.
They are designed not to break, so when your job is to break them, obviously it's tough.
Julie Angelo brought us to this quarry in Louisiana, Missouri.
What is all this stuff?
This is our storage of windmill blades before we process them.
Her company, Veolia, cuts used blades down to size and shreds them.
So this is our final product.
Cement makers use it as fuel instead of burning coal, cutting planet-warming carbon emissions at the cement plant by nearly 30%.
If you weren't recycling all of this, what would happen?
What would, or what also does happen, unfortunately, a lot of those end up in landfill.
Most used windmill blades are buried in the ground because it's cheaper. A black eye for green energy. By 2050, the world's wind industry is expected to produce more than 47 million tons of blade waste each year. finding ways to recycle blades,
This panel is not necessarily suitable for reuse.
as well as use solar panels, is now energizing the industry. This solar panel recycling plant in Yuma, Arizona can process 7,500 panels a day. Solar is the fastest growing source of energy in the U.S. Panels can last for 25 to 30 years, but more than 90% of used solar panels end up in landfills.
Why were most solar panels not recycled?
There was no planning to handle the waste, and that is the biggest challenge. It was just going into dumpsters.
Now, with a tsunami of renewable waste coming, recyclers are ramping up to ride the wave. Ben Tracy, CBS News, Louisiana, Missouri.
On International Biodiversity Day, conservationists are calling for action to protect the planet for generations to come. Tina Cross has that story from London.
Scientists say these sounds of nature are increasingly under threat as the planet's creatures watch their habitats being destroyed by pollution, deforestation, oil and gas production, and urban development.
We're doing very badly at protecting our biodiversity. We better change our ways, or else we're going to be in big trouble.
Climate experts say the world is seeing a dangerous decline in nature, with 1 million species now threatened with extinction and water sources drying up across the globe. And the trouble isn't just on land. Overfishing is wiping out sea life. At the COP15 Biodiversity Summit 5 months ago, nearly 200 nations agreed to protect at least 30% of the planet's land and water by 2030. On this International Biodiversity Day, conservationists want to make sure those promises are kept. They're urging people to find ways to repair damaged habitats, like planting shrubs along shorelines to protect wildlife and reduce erosion.
I think that there's already a revolution, especially in the younger people, that, aren't willing to take it anymore.
The United Nations is calling for collective action around the world to help ensure a prosperous planet for all species. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
The Biden administration last year launched a $1 billion program named the America the Beautiful Challenge to speed up locally led conservation and restoration projects. All right, so there's a new way restaurants are serving more customers without having to open new locations. They're licensing recipes to be recreated remotely. And as Bradley Blackburn explains, it means that Texas barbecue is now a hit in some surprising places.
When you smell smoked brisket and you see a dry rub, you're almost certainly deep in the heart of Texas.
The smoke rolls over the top of the meats.
Scott Moore Jr. owns Tejas Barbecue, one of the best spots in the state.
We got brisket coming up.
Tasting it has meant a trek here to the city of Tomball near Houston, where the line stretches out the door.
It's not a cuisine that is easily found in Manhattan, obviously.
At least until now. Tejas partnered with a company called Wonder that licensed its recipes and sent cooks to train in Texas so they can authentically recreate their barbecue here in New York City.
We've invested a lot over the last few years on making sure that we're able to replicate the best food from the best restaurants and chefs around the country.
Wonder founder Mark Laurie is bringing e-commerce innovation to food. A single location offers meals from more than a dozen restaurants, including iconic chefs like Bobby Flay and Jose Andres. But Tejas is their top seller.
So New Yorkers like Texas barbecue. They absolutely love it.
It's one of several companies helping restaurants grow without traditional franchising. Goldbelly allows restaurants to ship everything from New Orleans gumbo to Chicago deep dish to diners cross country. Moore says the deal with Wonder is huge for a small business.
The money that they were offering was more money than this restaurant was going to make over several years.
This is the test. This is brisket. Of course, it all comes down to taste. This native Texan tried it in Tomball.
This is the brisket in New York.
And the middle of Manhattan.
It holds up. It's good.
I'm hanging our hat on it. I'm proud to tell anybody from New York that that's Tejas's product.
A little bit of Texas some 1,600 miles away as more restaurants expand their reach. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York and Texas.
Right now, Wonder is available in the New York City area only, but they plan to expand across the country. A trip to space. One pilot is paying big bucks to go along. That story is next. All right, we're back. The New York City Ballet is wrapping up its historic spring season with the first Asian American female dancer as a lead. CBS's Nancy Chen highlights her incredible story as we celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Her artistry and grace center stage. This spring, at just 21 years old, Mira Nadon stepped into a pinnacle role at the New York City Ballet, the company's first ever Asian American female principal dancer.
It does feel like a kind of new era in the company.
What does that milestone mean to you?
It's a big honor and something to grow into.
Nadon began ballet at age 5. Her mother, Bapasha, born in India, took her to classes near their home in Montclair, California. Now she says she's honored to be a part of the company's evolution.
That's exciting for me to have some responsibility and feel like I can do something to help the culture in our company.
Nadon is among only 5 Asian American principal dancers in the company's 75-year history, including current dancers Chun-Wei Chan and Anthony Huxley.
You've reached the pinnacle of your training.
Artistic director Jonathan Stafford says the diversity of dancers has brought more talent to the stage. Why has it taken so long?
I'm not happy that it's taken so long, but I'm really grateful that we've gotten to the point where we've crossed a milestone. And I think she will continue to inspire other generations of dancers.
To look up at the stage and see such a variety of faces is so special. And that also just makes the company more interesting and even more vibrant.
Bringing even more beauty to the ballet. Nancy Chen, CBS News, New York.
4 astronauts have docked at the International Space Station after their SpaceX rocket lifted off over the weekend. The Axiom 2 flight is the second ever private mission to the orbiting lab. It's also the first mission in 38 years for Saudi Arabia's space program. Mark Straussman has more on the launch.
And liftoff, Falcon 9, go Axiom.
Sunday's liftoff, picture perfect. Only the second time a commercial mission has launched for the International Space Station.
A great view of Falcon 9 heading to space.
3 space rookies and their commander, a former NASA pioneer.
This is the Japanese module. Watch your head as we come in.
Once again, Peggy Whitson is shooting high, heading back to space at age 63.
It was a home away from home for me, and I really want to experience it again and let it engulf me.
This time, commanding a commercial mission to the space station. Her Axiom 2 crew includes 2 Saudi government astronauts, including the first Saudi woman in space, and John Schaffner, a 67-year-old Knoxville entrepreneur, pilot, and lifelong adventurer.
Is it what you expected?
No, it never is.
Whitson and Schaffner walked us through the ISS training mock-up at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, then talked about his first trip to space.
When did the space bug first bite you?
My earliest recollection is 1963, and it never left.
Axiom 2's crew will fly aboard a SpaceX Crew Dragon to the ISS. Total time aboard, 8 days. Price tag, unknown, but Schaffner's paying his own way, presumably in the millions. But Whitson and Schaffner agree. This is more than a rich guy's space junket. This new space era is redefining the right stuff.
You do need that sense of, I want to explore, I want to try something new. It's helpful to have an objective. I think that will build the strongest group of people in space.
This crew will do a lot more than take selfies and look down on Earth. They'll perform more than 20 experiments, including microgravity's effect on stem cell research. Mark Straussman, CBS News, at the Kennedy Space Center.
Welcome back. It's art, it's sculpture. It's a big hit for locals and visitors. We'll show you how function combines with fun to send a message ahead on Mid-Morning. All right, we're back, everyone. You may have heard that Minnesota is known as the land of 10,000 lakes, but there is another water feature that stands above others. John Lortzen heads to South Minneapolis in one of the city's most treasured towers.
Take a stroll through any old town in Minnesota, and the first thing you'll notice is the water tower. There's a teapot in Lindstrom and a fishing bobber in Pequot Lakes. Rochester has a giant corncob, and Ogilvie has a medieval-looking fortress.
They're really icons. They stand tall.
Minneapolis alone has quite the variety, from the witch's hat to the Kenwood standpipe. But when it comes to pure architecture, the Washburn Tower stands alone.
I mean, it's picturesque, it's serene, it's nice.
It all started in the 1880s when this was farmland way outside the city of Minneapolis.
Tom Balcom once wrote about the history of this little-known place. He says the first tower was made of brick and supplied water to a local orphanage. But as Minneapolis expanded, it outgrew Tower Number 1. So in 1931, Tower Number 2 was built out of concrete and with some added company.
Around the base of the tower, you can see what are called guardians of health.
There are 8 of them in all. Architect Harry Wild Jones helped design the Guardians, which are also known as water soldiers. Jones wanted them there because at the time, typhoid, an infection that spreads through water, was making people sick in Minneapolis. Each of the Guardians is nearly 30 feet tall from the ground to the top of the helmet, and each one weighs about 8 tons. While they guard the water, eagles keep an eye on the neighborhood. Each of them weighs about 5 tons. Jones added them after a construction worker was attacked by an eagle while building his home. Both man and raptor survived the confrontation. The city stopped using the Washburn standpipe in 2005, but people still look at it as a symbol for the neighborhood. Volunteers keep the park clean, and a fence has been added to protect what the Guardians can't. It's proof that no matter where you live, there's so much more to these towers than meets the eye.
Hopefully we'll be here for many more years and decades to come.
John Lordson, CBS News, Minneapolis.
And we'll be right back to wrap things up. Stay with us. All right, be sure you stay connected with us. We'd love to hear from you. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great day.